As, part one. As is a difficult word. Lots of different ways to use it and some different meanings. First, let's look at how as is used as a preposition. A preposition, remember, usually comes before a noun or a noun phrase. And for this meaning, the first meaning, we are using as to talk about the role. Role is like job, similar, or form of something. If you don't know these words, maybe check a dictionary, but let's get started. My daughter dressed up in what form? How did she dress up? Well, she dressed up as an owl. There's a picture of an owl if you don't know what that is. As plus a noun or a noun phrase, because in this meaning, as is a preposition. Another example, baking soda can be used. How? In what way? In what form? It can be used as a household cleaner. Another example, Jim works for the government. And what is Jim's role? What is his job? Well, he works for the government as an accountant. Again, as here is a preposition. It is followed by a noun. And another example, what you said really came. Now, this is a kind of a phrase we say. It came in what way, in what form? It came as a surprise. It surprised me. It was a surprise. What you said, the thing that you said really surprised me. It came how? How did it come? What form? It came as a surprise. Again, as plus a noun. Now, let's look at how we use as an adverb. And there are a few different ways to use as an adverb. Now, the first way, maybe you have studied this already, is we use it to make comparisons. And when we do this, we use as with an adjective. We also use as with an adverb. Okay, so adjectives or adverbs. Here are some examples of adjectives or adverbs. As tall, as well, as good, right? Well is an adverb, good is an adjective, possible. As fast, well, fast is an adjective, it's also an adverb. And as friendly, well, friendly is not an adverb, it's actually an adjective. So how do we use this? Well, let's look at some examples. Last night's dinner was delicious. Okay, so we're comparing, remember, we're comparing last night's dinner with tonight's dinner. So we're comparing it with using as plus an adjective or an adverb. Here we're using an adjective. Tonight's isn't as good. As good. We're comparing last night's dinner and tonight's dinner. Another example, my mother speaks French perfectly. Okay, so we're using perfectly, the adverb, because we're modifying the verb phrase. Speaks French. So I don't speak French as well. So we're comparing my mother and, well, actually we're comparing my mother speaks French and I speak French. We're comparing it, right? As plus, and here we have well, and well is an adverb, right? Now, we can also use this this way, or this type of as in this pattern. As plus an adjective or an adverb plus as again, and then we have a noun or a noun phrase. I know that's difficult, but it's not. Let's look at some examples. I don't like swimming. Okay, here we go. As much as skiing. So as plus much. Much is an adverb. As much as, and then a noun or a noun phrase. Skiing. Skiing is actually a noun here. Another example. I can't run as fast. Fast is an adverb. We're talking about run. As fast as, in a noun. Joey. I can't run as fast as Joey. The weather isn't as good. Now, here we don't have a noun phrase. Now we have a clause. This is another way to use it. The weather isn't as good as, before we had a noun. Now we have a clause, a subject and a verb. Okay, let's look at, where is the clause? Isn't as good as the newspaper said it would be. Okay, so we're comparing the weather now and the weather that the newspaper said it. Okay, so what is this grammar? Well, maybe yesterday I read the newspaper, and the newspaper yesterday said, it gave information, and yesterday we say, okay, tomorrow the weather will be, but now that's in the past because that was yesterday. So will be becomes would be. All right, the newspaper said it would be. Another example, your new haircut isn't as bad as, we can use a noun here, or we can use a clause, as you think. So we're comparing your new haircut and the haircut that you think. We're comparing these two things. Okay, so that's how we use as an adverb. Now let's look at how we use as a conjunction. Now there are many kinds of conjunctions. As is used as a conjunction between clauses. Okay, so we can have a clause with as and another clause, or we can have as plus a clause, comma, and another clause. Don't worry, I'll show you some examples. Okay. The first meaning of this conjunction way of using as is when or while. And a lot of students get confused about the differences between when or while. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. Really, I think as is closer to meaning of while. Okay? So usually we say as with something that's happening for a long time. Okay, so remember I said we can use as with a clause, comma, and another clause. Here we go. As we slept, okay, this is the first clause, comma, and another clause. It started to snow. Okay, so remember I said it's like while, and usually we're talking about long things. So as we slept, right? So last night, as I slept, well, that was 8 hours. It started to snow. As we slept, it started to snow. Now, what's another way we can say this sentence? Remember, there are two ways. Well, we can say this. It started to snow as, and what's the long thing? As we slept. Okay, let's look at some more examples of this. As I was driving on the highway, okay, as I was driving. Now, if your meaning is while, well, it's very common to use past continuous. As I was driving on the highway, I saw a bear on the side of the road. That's actually pretty common where I live. Another way to say this, I saw a bear on the side of the road as I was driving. So the first example, we have a comma. The second example, we don't have a comma. Now, another way to use as a conjunction, right? The form, the conjunction is a noun, so as a conjunction is to mean because. And, it doesn't mean because 100%. It means usually because, and we use it to talk usually about small things, or maybe things that maybe we already know. Okay, so I'll give you some examples. As I have a young child, okay, so maybe I'm talking to my friend and he or she knows that, yeah, I have a child, I have a young child. So maybe he or she knows that. So it's a small thing. You know I have a young child, right? So because I have a young child, you know this. So as I have a young child, I don't like to make noise at night. And by the way, this meaning of as is a totally the same as since. We can use since for this same meaning. Since I have a young child, I don't like to make noise at night. Remember, there are two ways you can use this conjunction, right? The different order. So here we have as at the beginning of the sentence with a comma, right? As I have a young child, comma. But what's another way to say that? Well, I don't like to make noise at night because, as I have a young child, since I have a young child, totally the same. Some more examples. Janet, right? Yeah. So as Janet loves to cook, because she loves to cook, since Janet loves to cook, I'm sure she'll be able to help with the party, right? I'm sure Janet will be able to help with the party as she loves to cook, since she loves to cook. Okay, now the last conjunction way of using as is kind of difficult. It means in the way that. In the way that. This meaning is like. Like. It's totally the same meaning of like. Okay? Please don't clean up. Leave everything the way that it is. Leave everything like it is. Okay? It is this way right now. Leave everything like it. Leave. Don't take it. Don't move it. Don't change it. Leave it as everything it is right now, as it is. Now this way we usually don't start the sentence with as. Okay, so you'll see with these examples, we just have as usually in the middle of the sentence. Another example, I have been studying Spanish for many years. It's not true. I have been studying Spanish for many years, but I don't think I will ever be able to speak it like the way that native speakers do. We use an auxiliary verb here. Do means speak. Okay? So the way that. Another example, I don't think we should do things this year the way that, like we did them last year. I don't think we should do things this year as we did them last year. Okay? So again, as a conjunction, we're using it with clauses. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about in this video, in this part 1 video, is the phrase as if or as though with a clause. Okay? Now, usually this comes after verbs like this. Okay? You look, you seem, she sounds, it appears, it seems, same meaning seem. It appears. This tastes, right? Sense verbs. There are more. These are just some examples. So usually we use as if or as though. By the way, as if, as though, same meaning, totally the same meaning. We use as if or as though after these verbs with a clause. And we do this to basically talk about how do you look? How does it sound? What way does she sound? What way does this food taste? It's really, really popular. Let's look at some examples. You look as if, as though, and again, this is the same as like. You look like you've just seen a ghost. Okay? You look as if you've just seen a ghost. You look as though you've just seen a ghost. So we say that a lot in English, and it means like maybe the person's really surprised or shocked or confused. You look as though you've just seen a ghost. Are you okay? Another example, when I arrived at their house, when I got to their house, it seemed, my feeling, my reaction was as though they had been arguing. Past perfect. This means before I got to their house, right? As though they had been fighting. Okay? Arguing. I use continuous because I want to focus on, long time. They had been arguing. Another example, when I talked to Samantha on the phone, she sounded, her voice, her words, she sounded as though she was quite sad. She sounded as if she was quite sad. She sounded like she was quite sad. So we use this to talk about the way she sounded, the way things look, the way things appear. And finally, I did lie, I'm sorry. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is we often use as a conjunction to point forward or backward. What do I mean? Well, sometimes I want to talk about things that happened in the past. Or sometimes I want to talk about things that will happen in the future. And this is really, really common in writing. Okay, let's look at some examples. Well, you guys know President Trump, right? I'm talking in this sentence about the past, January until now. Right now, if you're watching this video, it's 2017, November 1st. So 11 months, right? As we have seen until now, President Trump is never afraid to lie to the media. Right? And I'm pointing to the past as we have seen, right? I'm talking about, we have seen this, right, guys? We have seen this in the past. President Trump is never afraid to lie to the media. Some more examples. As I explained previously, and sometimes we just say, as explained previously. The last time the man was seen last night, the last time the man was seen was last night at approximately 8:30 p.m. So the last time the man was seen was approximately 8:30 last night. So maybe the police are talking to the media and they already said this. We already explained this. This was already explained. Passive. So we can shorten the passive. As it was explained previously, as explained previously. So this, we're pointing backward. We already talked about this. We already explained this. Let's look at an example about the future. As we will see on Sunday, a total eclipse. An eclipse is when the moon covers the sun. It happened like a month ago, right? So I don't know, just an example, maybe there will be an eclipse this Sunday in the future, right? So as we will see on Sunday, like we will see, we're pointing forward, a total 100%, because sometimes eclipses are not 100%, right? I don't know, but a total eclipse of the sun can cause, it can create, it can make quite a lot of darkness. So as pointing forward, pointing backward, again, we're using as a conjunction and we're using clauses. So that's the first part of this video, and I hope you join me for the second part.